Welcome to the Endless Honeymoon Podcast.
I'm your host, Natasha Leggero.
And I'm doing the weather. I'm Moshe Kasher.
And it's really great to be here. This is
It's great to be here.
it's an exciting time.
It's the only place we've been.
Well, you know, it's morning, so we usually record in the evening. But we have some special guests today that were only available in the morning.
Right. Well, one special guest in particular.
We have one special guest, yes.
Natasha wanted to have this person on because, I think...
Well, I'm very influenced by Ram Dass.
Right. You're like a spirit person.
I do not believe that the only things that are real are the things we can literally see and feel like you do.
What are some of the things that we can't see that you think are real?
Energy.
Like what?
If you can feel energy, you can feel vibes.
Oh, interesting. Oh, like how I feel like toxic energy coming off of you sometimes when we talk.
Do you?
No, I don't. Why don't you take me through your spiritual regimen? What are some of the things that you do in your day-to-day life?
Well, I think the hard thing about saying stuff like that is that when you answer, it's your answer for an ideal day.
Yeah, well, tell us about
you know what I mean? Because then you listen to people and they're like, "Oh, really? You get up at 5:30 every morning?"
Take us through your ideal spirit day.
Spirit
take you.
day?
You want me to take you to mine?
Yeah.
I wake up.
I already know you sleep in.
I wake up at 4:45.
No,
I go
you
outside.
don't.
I go outside. I toss the chickens a bit of feed, and as I'm doing that, I'm reminded that the chickens and I are both in the same strain of what life is. They eat as I eat. They walk as I walk. Am I more than a chicken, or am I just a developed chicken myself? Then I walk the stone path. And remind myself that just as each stone lieth in the path, so too do I lie in the path of life. I go upstairs. I do my ablutions. My ablutions is what I mean. I think is the word.
Is that where you whip your back?
No, I wash my palms, my temples.
Oh, ablutions has to do with water?
I think so.
Okay.
I wash my palms, my temples, and the bridge of my nose. And then I take off the outfit that I'm in. I put on linens. I'll light a frankincense. Sometimes I'll light a bit of Palo Santo. I drink a light tincture of ayahuasca and mate out of a gourd. Mate. I pronounce it mate. I drink a gourd of ayahuasca.
And at this time,
mate.
it's still only 5:45, right?
At this point, it's about 5 a.m. Yeah. And then I put on. I do a sound bath.
And then don't you start doing your Ujjayi breaths?
I do. Yes, I do. I do monkey breath, and I put on some. I do a very light, scintillating sound bath. Then I'll take the linens off. I do another round of ablutions. I'll jerk off, just really quick to get a bust a fatty little nut.
Moshe.
And then I put on some Pantera, and I'm ready to rock.
Well, it's funny that in all of that, you don't have any time for your child or the family to help us get ready for
what do you
the day.
think? That's my spiritual path, is that I put knickers on my daughter?
Well, I mean, I think that having
daughter.
a spiritual routine in the morning is something of a luxury when you have a toddler. And, you know, you've got to get her out the door, drive her to school, pack a lunch, put sunscreen on her, make sure she has extra clothes, make sure she's got her mask, make sure she has the right shoes on, make sure she has water. It's just a lot to do.
Yeah, that sounds hard. I've done those things because I am one of the parents of that child that you're referencing.
Everything I just said, though, I usually do.
Our daughter, Tabitha.
I usually do everything.
Our daughter.
I like Tabitha.
Let's name her Tabitha. John Tesh, take us through your real ideal spiritual day.
Well, I like it. My day is always better if I can get up at 6:30.
Yike.
I did that today.
Yeah.
But that means I have to go to bed at 10:30,
mm-hmm.
and then you kind of roast me the whole time.
No, here's why I roast Natasha. It's not that she goes to bed early. It's that she's self-conscious about going to bed early. She thinks it makes her a square. So rather than just say to me, hey, I'm getting...
10:30 isn't even that early.
It is. But rather than just say to me, hey, I'm getting tired, let's turn the movie off or whatever we're watching off, she will pretend that she's awake. But I'm audibly hearing her sleeping. You know that thing that like Droopy did in the cartoons where the cartoon characters are sleeping and their lips are like
Okay, Moshe.
there's a feather coming off of your mouth and then
Sometimes I open my eyes and your face is exactly in front of me, and you're like, "Are you sleeping?"
you know who you have to blame for that?
Who?
You. And you know why? You're gaslighting me. I feel gaslit because you're saying I'm not asleep, but I know you're asleep and you're gaslighting me. And it's actually honestly sexist.
Okay, well, anyway, I don't have much of a great spiritual practice.
You do, though.
I like to get up at 6:30. If I do that, then I make coffee, and then I'll go upstairs into my own little office space, and I have a little altar there, and I will do some different meditations. I really like chanting.
What's your chant? Is it secret?
No, well, the transcendental mantra I was given
You can't say that.
is supposed to be a secret.
Right. But I don't mind. I don't.
But I don't know why.
I know. That was always the weirdest thing about transcendental meditation to me is that they're like, this is a secret and it costs $350. But when I took it, I don't respect those rules. I'm an iconoclast and I will tell you what mine is.
What's yours?
Rock on. That's what the guru told me. He said, rock on. So that's what I said, rock on.
And then there's also, when I went to the Ram Dass retreat, he said that he likes just like with the little beads, just chanting Ram, which means love. But it's also his name. But his name is Ram because that means love.
That's some Kanye West shit right there.
Let's ask Raghu Markus about it today. So the way I know Raghu is that
makes pasta sauce, right? Yeah, he's some of the best.
I
was gonna have Prego Marcus on myself.
He basically runs Ram Dass's network. Well, before he died, and he still is running it. And I met him a long time ago.
Well, let me tell you something, our listeners, something about Ram Dass. Okay, there's a back and forth that Natasha have on this podcast. You may have noticed where I roast her for,
that we have.
Yeah. That I roast you for believing in things that I deem to be like, woo-woo. And you roast me for being too much of a pragmatist and too much of a concrete literalist, right? And people...
I just am... I would just like to say that I just believe that I don't know everything and you believe you do know everything.
Is that something that Ram Dass taught you? Is it how to analyze your partner?
Well, no, but I just think that kind of like says it all.
Okay, well, it definitely says something. I don't know if it's it all, but it definitely says a particular thing. Now, anyway, I don't think that I know it all, but that's an ongoing dynamic that the two of us have, right? And it is true that I am skeptical about, I'm not an atheist, but I'm skeptical about things like in the realm of the spirit, right?
So you feel like you don't have a soul?
No, I didn't say, I don't know. What does that even mean? That's what does that question mean? A soul. Do you think you have a soul?
Yeah.
Really? Like you have a spirit like wisp inside of you that is beyond your body kind of a thing?
I feel like I have part of an eternal energy or something.
I think close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hear my heart beating. Do you hear my heart beating? Do you feel the same? Now, are you only dreaming?
Diffuse it with comedy.
That's my whole life. Or is this burning an eternal flame? Is that Tiffany? Anyway, the point is, I'm getting to something here. It's not going to be cynical. So my point is, I've read all these spiritual books in my life, having spent all the time in 12-step groups. I was like, I read, the Celestine Prophecy and the freaking agreements and I don't know, Tuesdays with Maury or I don't know what books I actually
Wow,
read.
pretty deep spiritual journey, Moshe. Did you read Chicken Soup for the Soul?
I read Help My Wife's a Biatch.
Okay.
Have you ever read that one?
No.
Oh, it's really good. It's written by Snoop Dogg. No, what I'm saying is I've done all this different stuff, right? I just like you, I've gone on journeys of the spirit, Jewish stuff, and meditation, Hawaiian meditation, breathing.
What's
meditation.
Hawaiian meditation?
I don't
Where
know.
you go to Hawaii and surf?
No, some guy. I never told you the story. Some guy approached me in an AM PM in Monterey and said he was a Hawaiian kahuna.
It has to do with. Have you ever done anything in the realm of spirit that wasn't attached to Burning Man?
Yes, honey. I don't know why you're roasting me. I'm trying to make a point that is gonna reinforce your decision to bring a cleric on our podcast.
A cleric? What's a cleric?
I don't like a clergyman.
Oh, he's not a clergyman. He's a layperson.
Let me just say this thing. The point is, I've read all these books, and often I find them a little cringe. But when people ask me like, who's the person who you think has the most to offer in terms of that genre of book or thinker, it's Ram Dass for sure.
But let me ask you this: you've read very few. How are you in a position to even tell people?
I mean, I have friends, and they ask me my opinion. Do you not have any friends?
I do have friends.
Nobody comes to me and says, Moshe, you're a great spiritual authority. Tell me what books I should read. I'm saying when I have a chat with my friends who are like, have you ever read a book that touched you? Has there ever been a spiritual thinker that...
I'm glad that you liked Ram Dass's books.
That's what I was trying to say. I was trying to say something positive over here, but I keep getting a little bit...
You like Alan Watts' talks, if we look those up on YouTube?
Alan Watts is fine. Nothing particularly resonated with...
All right.
I've read more books than you think I have on stuff like this.
Honey, you're very smart.
No, I'm just saying, name some books, some famous spiritual books. I'll tell you if I've read them.
Florence Scovel Shinn.
Hmm?
Or are you... authors. I was going to name some authors I like.
No, like
Wayne
some famous
Dyer.
books.
Have you ever read any of his stuff?
Is he the one with the big hat and the beard?
No, he's
on the
bald.
Learning Annex?
No, he's bald.
No,
he really helped me for a while.
I like
Norman Vincent Peale. Even The Power of Positive Thinking can be good. Positive thinking, that's a good example.
Bud Dwyer. He's a great spiritual leader of mine. Bud Dwyer. He was, I think, a city councilman of a small town in the Midwest, and he shot himself on the nightly news. He called a press conference and then shot himself in the head. To me, that guy's a great spiritual teacher.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Bud Dwyer. Look it up. The footage is actually online.
Bud Dwyer?
Bud Dwyer. He ate a bullet. Anyway, I've read spiritual books. I was in AA for 20 years, and that was part of the thing. Is you're supposed to go on some like spirit journey, And so I tried. I'm not naturally gifted when it comes to spirituality, but I also studied religion in college. I have a degree in the shit. What do you think I did in college? Not read any of the books? I read the books.
Okay.
Read that Gita. Read the Torah.
Read the Bhagavad Gita?
I mean, I didn't read it cover to cover. That shit is
what's a good book is the Bible.
Bible's interesting. What do you like about it?
Well, I had a therapist once who gave me the New Testament with all, you're not going to like this.
I already don't.
With all of Jesus's lines, like
his dialogue?
in red.
Dialogue in red, yeah.
And she said it was a living text, meaning that you can still go back and read it. Even if you don't believe in Jesus, whatever he was saying can still offer you some solace.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, honey.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was a long time ago, but I think that you can...
No. Jesus was a spiritual teacher, sure.
I think that you can grab from so many different places, and
sure.
I feel like right now more than ever, like I feel like this is our only hope to have something bigger than us, because look what we've done. We've just perfected the phones.
I read the Quran. I read the Gita. I read the Torah. I read the New Testament. I've read some of the Tao Te Ching.
Tao Te Ching's cool.
I read some of some Buddhist stuff, some Zen stuff. I read some of the New Age
Deepak
stuff.
Chopra was
Deepak.
really...
I've read Deepak. What's her name? Starhawk. I read that. I read what did Starhawk was like a famous New Agey person. I read Celestine Prophecy. I read Power of Now. I'm not I'm not just I'm not a spiritual guy, but I've looked into this stuff. My point is, my bullshit-ometer starts going off really quickly when people start talking about how they know the truth. And when Ram Dass, his what are the name of his talks? Exercises in Truth or something like that.
Oh, Experiments in Truth.
Yeah. He gives this great.
That's a CD like a CD series of like 6 CDs that we had.
Unfortunately, it's only available on CD.
Because it's talks.
It's impossible to find it in any other form of media.
No, I'm just trying to differentiate. It's not a book.
Not a book.
Right. It's live talks.
The truth is,
yeah, maybe you can get an MP3, Moshe.
Yeah, there you go. You're recommending that our listeners get things on CDs?
I don't know. I mean, that's just how I got it. It's old. I don't know how else it comes. But audiobook.
But anyway, my point of all this is that when Ram Dass talked, my bullshit-ometer never went off because there's nothing in it in particular that could make you go, this is bullshit, because it's kind of like where spirituality meets psychology, and it's kind of accessible and profound.
Well, that's nice of you to say, but then you must not have heard he has a lot of magical stories where like
Yeah, but they're polemic.
he meets his guru and the guru knows how his mom just died.
Yes.
And so he has a lot of experiences like that really can't be explained from logic.
Here's the difference. Here's the point. When somebody tells a story like that, if it connects to a broader idea, then I don't need to believe in the truth of the story to understand the message behind it, which is similar to the Bible. Do I think Jesus actually moonwalked on the Sea of Galilee and made a bunch of perch burst forth from a basket because he was like hamana hamana and mecca lecca hi mecca hiney ho, and then everybody had fish? No, but there's a spiritual, lesson beneath it. It's all allegory, right?
I mean, when Ram Dass talks about his magical experiences, I don't think they're allegory to him.
I know, but what I'm saying is, you're right. Those kinds of things I don't believe, but I don't need to believe them because there's messages behind it. Anyway, my point of it all is that the Ram Dass school of spirituality is the school of spirituality that makes my skin crawl the least. And that's why we have our next guest, who is carrying on the legacy of Ram Dass, right?
Yes, he actually sent me Ram Dass's latest book, and I'm really enjoying it. It's basically Ram Dass wrote it, and it was pretty much the last thing he wrote before he died, and it's full of stories, and I'm really loving it, and really like wishing that I was alive in the 70s. I mean,
I don't just
the 60s and 70s with LSD.
You can bring that LSD to today.
At Harvard. I want the Harvard LSD.
You want the HLSD.
Whatever
LSD
they
H.
had. Whatever like made everyone terrified that the government banned it forever. That's the stuff I want.
Let me say this. I don't just not cringe when I hear Ram Dass. I would actually recommend that everyone listen to his talks because I really get a lot out of them, and I really think that they're profound. And
he's funny. They're very accessible. They're
very
on YouTube.
What?
Yeah.
They're on YouTube?
I think
They are on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying if you wanted to just hear like them in a specific order, you can get Experiments in Truth.
Experiments in Truth, I recommend all of our listeners hear because it's stuff that really helps. Anyway.
Well, Moshe, I just think that, in terms of the magical stuff that you don't believe in, maybe you could make the leap that some people are more open to it so they are able to access spirit in a way that maybe someone who's more closed off like you isn't able to access it.
It's a good thing you're not a spiritual teacher because that's not the way to bring me into the fold. No, I just think to keep an open mind, there are certain people that are able to access those kinds of magical, mystical experiences. And then there are people like you who are kind of like close-minded fools that are unable to see the essential truth beneath everything.
All right, well, let's call our guest, Raghu Markus, and see what he has to say.
Sounds good to me.
Do you feel my heart beating?
He's here.
Oh. Hi, Raghu. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
This is my husband, Moshe.
Hi there. How are you?
Hi.
Thanks
I
for
know
joining
everything about you.
Oh, what do you know? Uh-oh. Has Natasha done some confessionals with you?
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
Do you really know stuff about him?
Oh, just whatever you've told me, and it's all delightful. So don't.
Well, Raghu, I was thinking about you recently because I was listening to you on Duncan's podcast, and I was hearing you kind of talk about things, and I was like, oh, you sound like me in the sense of like Moshe, my husband here, he's, he just thinks like we got the vaccine. Now let's get back to work. Everything's going to be right back to normal. Whereas like I heard you saying like things are different now forever. And I really feel that. And I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit or also talk about, I just wanted some advice on like, what do we do when everything feels so divided? Like, I feel like we're coming out of this coma and everyone's like hot,
Yeah.
I just feel like there's a lot of altercations too, like even at like stand-up shows and like interactions and the neighbors, everyone just kind of feels like hot. You know what I mean?
How about the stewardess that got clocked by this lady on the Southwest flight?
Yeah, exactly. Like the airlines, because we travel for work and I know you do too. And it's like all of a sudden they're like, they've already had 1,200 write-ups this year, and usually that's what they get in like 2 years, like for bad behavior.
Yeah.
The
So
funny part about that lady was that her punishment was she was banned from Southwest for life. I'm like,
Yeah.
can't they ban her from all of the airlines? That's not
Yeah,
much of a
right.
punishment.
Yeah, really. Oh, that's funny. Oh my. I mean, look, it will never be the way it was before. First of all, the main rule is there's nothing permanent. It's all impermanent. And as we go through this kind of really immense year of I mean, everything from racial justice stuff to the COVID thing to the Trump thing and the polarization, as you suggested. So, I mean, looking positively, I would say that the fact that we were really in hibernation there for a year about, excuse me. So I think it forced a lot of us to start looking instead of outward, inward, and to see, okay, what am I about here? What is this about? And usually we don't have time to look inward. We are so caught up in our day to day. So I think that inward looking, I'd like to say that's hopeful. People to do more of that, and so they can look inside a little bit at, for instance, the polarization. I mean, we are so tribal. And I'm including the liberals amongst us that immediately identify the other side as the them. They stay the them no matter what, and there's no possibility of any kind of dialogue. Now, I may be a little, this is sort of a little bit naive because we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of years for us to get here, right? This isn't just something that instantaneously happened. It's like, about this book, Breath, by the way?
No.
I'm just thinking of that. No? Oh, you've got to get this book. I did a podcast with a guy named James Nestor, and he went and researched, we are completely not breathing correctly, and it is enormously affecting us all. And he even went into the way the Industrial Revolution and the evolution of the Industrial Revolution was. People's jaws and everything came completely changed as a result of the forces of the different kinds of way we were eating and how all of that changed and all the pollution and so on and so forth. It's a fabulous book, you guys. It's really something. So in the same way, we have gone through this enormous catalytic change. And there's no way we're going back to the way things were before. And the other thing, of course, is the reality of the virus and its mutations is just a good example of what we have been doing regarding the environment and nature is pushing back. That pushing back is not just going to stop at this point. I don't think.
You mean
people,
with environmental change?
Yeah. And so that's there's no going back on that. That's probably the biggest no going back to, right?
We just read that 99% the monarch butterfly population has decreased by 99%.
Really? Jesus God. I mean, yeah, we can set out so many different examples of that. And it's kind of horrifying. What's going on in India is really horrifying. As you know, I have quite a connection there and been going there forever. And I can't tell you, people dying, family, friends, and sick, and the whole family in the hot, just really tough stuff. So there's no going back.
So when you talk about going inward, are you talking about having a meditation practice? Is there any tips, any suggestions for people who, this isn't quite a spiritual podcast?
It's not.
Why?
What do you mean?
I try to convince Moshe to
listen. Raghu, all podcasts in a way are spiritual when you think about it.
Everything is spiritual.
Exactly.
The truth is everything is.
Well, I have a question.
It's just a matter of perspective. Yeah.
I have a question about that. For people for whom, and I would assume many of our listeners, not all of them, but people for whom spirituality, meditation practice is not even something they've ever approached. But as you say, we've all spent this last year in this kind of enforced, externally enforced period of introspection. What are like the basic, what are some like kindergarten building blocks of something that you can apply to your life as a person that isn't naturally oriented towards spirit and spirituality, but can start to like implement it into your life that can raise your quality of life or raise your connection?
Well, I mean, I just look back, and I've said this on the Mind Rolling podcast many, many times. I look back at myself, at what pushed me to even consider another reality. Obviously, for many of us, and today, psychedelics is a big thing. Because it shows you instantly there is another reality, and you just cannot.
Bam, Moshe.
Okay, I'll take acid. Okay, Natasha, you win. Twist my arm.
Well, Moshe and I have like an ongoing thing where he kind of is like he if he can see it, he believes it, and
But I don't. But I don't have that belief in rejection of a spiritual path. I have that belief in harmony with it. That's what I think. I don't think that they are that they're incompatible beliefs.
Well, the Buddhist, you're a Buddhist. That's a Buddhist. I mean, even His Holiness, the Dalai Lama says, don't, teachers and so on, you have to experience it yourself. Do not be trusting just anybody out there. And you really have to log in the time so that you can investigate yourself. And that's the first thing. But going back to why I got involved with all this, it was because I was so effing unhappy and depressed, and I couldn't take my life. And I just, it naturally happened. And that's the way it does happen, by the way. You just have a thought, wow, this is bullshit. What else is out there? I can't believe that I'm not going to conform to what my family and society dictates. Forget that. And so I started looking outwards to what could help transform. And you know what? And this is my famous story, but it's true. What happened before I even got to psychedelics was I went to a John Coltrane concert. It was in a club. They got me in. Somebody got me in. I was 16, 17 or something. And he played my favorite. I don't know if you guys know. I mean, Coltrane, icon of
we're sophisticated people.
Yes. Okay. So he played my favorite things on a soprano sax, and literally I went out of my consciousness of being my body, how we are this thing. And that was my first little dip into it. And from there.
And you weren't on drugs?
Later, no, I was not on drugs. I wasn't, not even pot. Nothing.
What happened? And you started to like see something else, or did you couldn't feel your body?
I just felt myself, that thing behind the ego self just rise and just become completely free of the entanglement of my mind and all of it. And up to then, that wasn't happening. Okay. I was completely caught in the depression and all of that stuff.
You became raindrops and roses.
Yeah. I mean, not quite, but it was a feeling similar to when you do take a psychedelic and you start to break out and you leave behind all of the detritus of your mind. So that led me into oh, wait, there is something else now. And then, of course, later came psychedelics, and after that, I was fortunate enough to meet Ram Dass.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you think of that story? See, Moshe probably doesn't believe your story.
Of course I believe your story. Why?
I was in that club, and I did have that experience, okay?
You do seem like a shifty character. I don't know if I buy it. No, I totally believe that story. I think when I hear stories like that, I think my reaction is how lucky you were to have had a transcendental experience dropped in your lap. And I have always wanted to have. I've had shades of experiences like that in my life, but I've always.
You have an amazing daughter. That's kind of magical.
Yeah, but I've had profound moments in my life where I think, oh, I can almost see the shadow of the realm behind the realm or whatever. Mm-hmm. But yeah. I'm more like. My difficulty with meditation, spirituality in general, is not intellectual. as much as it is discipline. It's difficult for me to I get distracted, bored. Difficult for me to have discipline in a way that would I can synthesize that kind of stuff into my daily life and really reap the benefits of it. And that
you're the only one that gets bored. And, why should I do this? This is bullshit. Yeah, you're the only one.
I'm the guy.
It just gets to the point where, like, I mean, with some people, it's very acute. You get ill or you lose somebody. That kind of a thing drives you to take go inside, and then so you will use meditation. And it's not just meditation. It's you do some yoga. I mean, people go do yoga, have done yoga, and just as a physical thing or to meet people, and hopefully it'll come back. But and they hear my friend Krishnadas chanting, and suddenly, whoops, something wakes up. That, oh, wait a minute, that was something that I felt that I hadn't felt before. What's that about? Or you read a book, or you're traveling. I mean, it's not just meditation. Ultimately, though, you're right. It needs practice so that you're not caught in that mind vortex. That is absolutely true. Because once you're in that mind vortex and you believe your thoughts and the story you tell yourself about who you think you are, once that happens, you're really caught in a vice grip, basically. So there are methods to get out of that vice grip, and you have to realize you're in the vice grip, and then you're in jail, basically, as a Ram Dass used to put it. Once you realize you're in jail, you're going to get out. You do the things to get out.
And I guess, like you said, what the Dalai Lama said is that, just really experiencing it for yourself, trying different things, what works.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I guess giving yourself that time, right? Whether it is to like finish a book or listen to a lecture while you make your coffee or whatever.
It is funny that I've spent the last 20, 30 years or 20 years telling myself I don't have time to meditate 5 minutes a day.
Yeah, get in a long line there.
Right.
Well, we take calls, and I feel like people are pretty lost right now, and I'm kind of out of advice, so I thought I could bring someone on like you
out of advice.
who could maybe, shed a little wisdom. So maybe.
Wait, okay.
Oh, yes. Did you have another question?
I have one last question before we do a call. Sorry. It was such a good transition. I feel guilty even cutting you off. But
it's okay.
But okay.
You're the man. You can decide which way we go.
That's what you guys believe over there, right, Raghu? The man can at any point step in and reframe the conversation.
Ooh, guys, no, don't even come near me with that thought. I'll be roasted.
Okay, no. We've identified me as the spiritually underdeveloped member of this family. If I came to you and I said, okay, so I'm in the mind vortex, I have been for a long time. What are your suggestions on how, like, what are the beginning level? What do I do now to start a journey?
I'll give you a list of books, Moshe, and you'll start reading them.
I'm in. I can do that.
Yeah. You know what? Again, the very first thing has to be that you're sick of yourself, okay? And you're sick of being absolutely driven by, these thoughts, these desires, these, all of the emotions, jealousy, all of it. You're
or it could just be one thing, right? Like I'm sick of like a fear that keeps coming up.
Yep.
Exactly. It's not like I'm sick of my whole life, but
well, Natasha's sick of me, and I think of us as one person. So I'm close. Right. So you're tired of the cycle, basically.
Yeah, you're tired of the cycle that you're in. You're tired of being at the mercy of believing your thought. I mean, that's a big thing, by the way, believing your thoughts. I mean, thoughts are zero. It's absolutely, once you start to see how you're just following these thoughts and going down these rabbit holes, then you start to look, okay, wait, is this it? Is this all I'm going to be dealing with for the rest of my life, is being subject to all of this bullshit? So that's the first thing, that you get an idea that there is something you're not happy about, and you don't want to be at the mercy of fear, and loathing and judgment, and you can go on. I mean, the Buddhists have they could like 150 different ways in which we use this stuff as a pile driver to be unhappy, basically. So so you get there. So then you go, okay, what am I going to do about this? Well, you have to do nothing, because if you start to say you have to, it becomes really a tough thing. But you are driven to be open and curious about what's possible, other than just being, like I said, subject to these enormous push and pull of thoughts and desires.
Rumination too, like when you keep
and you're just
ruminating.
lost all the time. So yes, mindfulness then is an extremely important and beneficial thing. It really is. And mindfulness. So then I would say, Moshe, I have a friend who is the mindfulness expert in this country, as far as I'm concerned. His name is Joseph Goldstein. He's on the Be Here Now podcast network.
A fellow Jew, Moshe.
I like the last name, I'll be honest. Yeah.
I
I want to listen to what he has to say already.
More Jews. I'm about to do a podcast today with Norman Fisher, who's also a fabulous mindfulness guy, a Zen guy. How did all these Jews get involved? We don't know. But Joseph has a book, and this I would tell the entire audience. It's called Mindfulness. It's a very fat book, and it is so fantastic in that it just gives you a roadmap to be able to change your perspective from the one that we're used to, which is from our heads and judging ourselves. The whole BS that we all do. And I actually, and I don't know if you guys, I don't even know where this podcast goes, but I'm sure there's some show notes, what I can give you. I did one thing with Joseph one day. He was at a retreat with us in Maui, and he was going to do a talk, and he said, "What should I talk about?" To me, I said, "Well, talk about mindfulness. That's your whole thing. You got that book. He said, that book is like 600 pages long. I said, well, you can do something in 75 minutes. I'm sure it'll be good. And he did. And he gave a talk that was so clear and down to earth, which is what I love about him, that I called it 75 Minutes to Enlightenment. Because I said, if you just followed this thing, you'd get out of this bullshit.
Wait, we can listen to that instead of reading a huge book?
That's great.
Yeah, right. Well, let's start with that. You know what? I will send that to you.
That'd be amazing.
We'll
post it.
And you can offer it out to anybody who wants it.
Well, we have our podcast on YouTube, so we'll put a link up.
That sounds great. Okay, awesome. I feel like I've got a roadmap to begin.
Yeah, so that's definitely mindfulness is definitely the first thing that somebody can do to help themselves. And beyond, just start there. And of course, yes, sitting somewhere for even 5 minutes and focusing on for me, Joseph brought back, along with Jack Cornfield, who Natasha knows.
He's awesome.
And they brought back, and Sharon Salisbury, they brought back this practice called insight meditation from the East. And it's just using the natural breath to focus, going in and out of the nostrils, or the rising and falling of the abdomen. And as soon as you realize you're lost, which will be in like a millisecond, you just come back, and you keep pulling it back. You keep pulling it back. And eventually it starts to, you start to get to the place where you're not lost for like 12 minutes. Like, where was I? Into some fantasy. So to me, breath is the most efficacious.
You're just focusing for 5 minutes. You set a timer, and then you're just like focusing inside my nose, outside my nose, inside my nose, out like that.
The breath hitting as it comes out of the nostril and hitting the upper lip. The feeling is what you focus on. I find actually because you can really feel your abdomen as you breathe in. Your abdomen, and you breathe out, goes up and down. So you just go rising, falling, rising, falling. And then as you just pull it back when you realize that you're completely lost.
And do you close your eyes?
It's best, especially the Buddhists say, to just keep your eyes open just a little bit, because when you completely close your eyes, you're subject to fantasies taking over. When you have your eyes open just a little bit, not focused anywhere, it's a little bit more better in terms of getting lost.
Let's try it, Moshe,
I'm
together.
down. I'll be
Moshe
honest.
and I need to do that
I'll
together.
be honest with you, Natasha.
Yeah.
Just this small conversation, and Raghu, this small conversation, I am inspired to apply some of this stuff more into my life. That's all it took. A small bit
articulate Jew.
a small bit of evangelism. Okay, let's do a call.
Okay, so you mind taking a call, helping out some of these people?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna call Joy in Ontario, Canada.
Oh, that's where I'm from.
Well, there you go. Maybe you guys can connect on that level.
From Toronto, or born in Toronto.
Hamilton is where this person's from.
Hamilton, yeah, not far from Toronto.
Named after the famous Broadway musical.
Hello,
Hi.
Joy.
Hi,
Joy.
Hello.
It's Natasha, Moshe, and our friend Raghu Markus.
Hello.
We
Hi.
want to help you out.
I would love that. It'd be wonderful.
What's going on?
So the preamble to my question is that over the year, I've gone through a deconstructing of my faith, and a faith that was sort of something I inherited from my parents and so on and so forth. And it's caused me to examine the patterns and structures that have to do with the religion I was born and raised in. And as a result, I've come to evolve out of Christianity, that faith.
Hell yeah.
Hell yes. Hell. Oops. No. Okay. And so
Hell yeah
I'm
is where
grateful
you're
for
headed
Moshe.
after this journey.
Come on, she's nervous. Okay, so you've journeyed out of Christianity.
I have. Now, because it's happened during the pandemic, it's happened in isolation. So I have had this huge journey, and the people in my life who still are in that environment haven't been a part of it, and I haven't shared that part with them. So my question, twofold, if I may. The first is, what responsibility do I bear to them and to myself to communicate this sort of spiritual awakening? And then lastly, how can I make sure that the angst maybe and the hurt that I've felt in this deconstruction isn't transferred onto the people that I love so much who are still in and identify as Christians?
Powerful idea. You're worried about lashing out at them because they gave you this legacy of belief that now feels objectionable to you, and you want to mitigate that.
Well, that's true. And there's no one I'm able to direct this negativity that I have, this pain I have about everything that I've sort of unraveled. There's no one I can scream at and punch at, but the people in my life who represent it still, I don't want them to be my punching bags.
Well, one thing I will say about that last part, and then I'm going to give it to Raghu, is that maybe you have to understand the religion might help them. So if it helps them, why you love them, they should have as long as it's not hurting other people. I mean, it's like everyone's entitled to their own. I mean, people look at my decorating style and they're like, "Are you insane? I would hate to live in that room. I would go crazy." And it's like, well, it works for me, So I mean, that's maybe not the best analogy,
but there's something there.
But Raghu, why don't you help her out a little bit?
Oh boy. Well, I can only give you my own example, and I was in the same place as you, a long time ago, and I was prompted to go to India by meeting this teacher. And prior to that, my family was Jewish, and I mean, we were what's called conservative Jews. In other words, weren't Orthodox, but we were really, the family just laid down all of those rules about which, events that we needed to go to in the high holidays and all that stuff. And I was so pissed all the time. I can't tell you. And so I threw it in the garbage kind of, and that really of course, upset my father in particular. And so that was a really rotten time, part of what I was talking about before, being sort of very depressed at that time. And then, anyhow, so I end up getting to India and meeting my guru, who is Ram Dass's guru, the man in the blanket. His name is Neem Karoli Baba. So the first thing that he said to us as we sat down, he pointed his finger and he went, in Hindi, it's sub ek. It's all one. There is only one thing happening. Jesus Christ and Krishna and Buddha and Muhammad, all of it, one. And he kept absolutely getting after us that the reality that we had been living in of this defined separation of this is the only way, or this is our tradition, and therefore you cannot escape it whatsoever. We started to understand that is not the truth. The truth is, if there's only one thing going on, so if you want to call it God, or you want to call the Buddhists call it Buddha mind, whatever, there's so many different names for that thing that religions coalesce around. And so it was such a relief. And I can't tell you that I was able to go back to some of the things that really meant something to me after I came back from India and all of that. And I was able to recognize, he was particularly, this is really crazy. Moshe, can you understand that, going to India
Yeah.
and all of a sudden somebody says to you, all they talk about, and you're there with a Hindu guru, all they talk about is Christ. Okay? And the people that were around in that moment, 75% of them were Jews. Okay, I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about
You're
Christ.
Jews trying to get on this Hindu trip,
Yeah,
and
right.
then it's like they're all talking about Christ.
Yeah, exactly. So the nature of it is, whether this helps or not, the nature of it is to realize that behind all of what you've been experiencing and what the family has laid out for you and society, but basically the family in this case, because you're concerned about your parents in terms of the feelings that you have, just realize that behind it all, there is only one energy. Okay, there's one thing that absolutely connects us all, and you can call it God, or you can call it divine presence, you can call it anything. But there's only one thing, not separate. We don't have one thing and then the Jews have another and the Christians have another and the Hindu. There's nothing like that going on.
That's such a cool story. And it's, I guess I kind of feel, sorry, what's your name again?
Joy.
Sorry, I kind of feel for Joy in the
Joy.
sense in practically speaking though, are you kind of wondering what happens when they want me to go to Easter Mass? Because I'm the kind of person I would just go. Because if it made people happy and it didn't take up too much of my time, I would probably just do that. Because I actually like going to different kinds of services. I've been, I'll go to a Hare Krishna temple. I find it fascinating. But maybe you feel like you've gotten to a place where it's damaging to you. I don't know. Are you wondering, practically speaking, what are you obligated to do?
Well, the people who I love so much, who do identify still with maybe the structures of Christianity, I guess I'm afraid of rejection. If my step away from it is a threat to them, and of course I can't control that, but being authentic, I guess, comes with certain repercussions.
Yeah, but at the same time, you just recognize that idea, that thought of rejection and the feeling of rejection is not you, had nothing to do with you. It is just a thought, really. It has no consequence. It's just like you have a thought, I got to get up in the morning, I got to brush my teeth, I got to have my coffee. It's the same, and it's inconsequential, right? Those thoughts. So is this thought. So recognize that, and at the same time, there isn't the manifestation of the divine. However, it's newly come to you in another way, and that you're really happy about it. that thing isn't gone from Christianity. It's not gone from whatever the church is that your family's going to. You can see it in someone's eyes if you just open up, and it's just a matter of a little bit of openness and curiosity, and you don't have to tell your parents anything. You just have to honor. That's all you got to do is honor your tradition, your parents, and everything,
and
who
herself.
you are. And yourself ultimately is exactly right. So that means that you don't have to feel like you don't have to believe any of these kinds of thoughts that are coming to you of reneging on your religion and all that stuff. It's because it's, as I say, I mean, and my experience is, I mean, I can go to anything. I once went. I was had a partner who was Catholic, and she had a couple of girls, and I would go occasionally to the church, and it was it was no issue whatsoever. But one time I came back from India, and I had been with this incredible female teacher, just a real ma, they call them in India, and I was really high, and I went in, and that they were doing the whole ceremonial thing with the Eucharist and everything. I mean, I got lost, completely lost in love. And it had nothing to do with the external whatsoever. So you have that inside you. Just that's the only thing that counts.
I think I have my thoughts here are I've gone through a thing like this. It's not as tied to childhood as being raised in a faith tradition, but I definitely have had the experience of waking up slowly to realizing that a thing that was my faith system no longer resonated with me. And I think of it a lot like waking up one day and realizing that your partner, you've fallen out of love with someone. And it's like this very my first thought was like to be gentle on yourself and realize you're going through something traumatic. You haven't just rejected your faith, you're going through a breakup.
Also, don't forget the baseline trauma that everyone in the world has gone through.
Right, well, that's true too.
Yeah,
right.
Like, yes, you have this on top,
very
but
good.
maybe it acted as a catalyst. So,
right. But it's like you're going through a major breakup with a partner that you've been with your whole life, and so of course you're angry, and your first thoughts are, I'm going to go tell his family, if it was your husband, I'm going to go tell his family what a piece of shit he was to me. It's like, I'm going to tell him I'm not in love with your son anymore. But then you go, well, that's probably not the system. And like, if you really, there was this rabbi in the Bay Area called Michael Lerner that would always talk about the God that you reject and that you're angry at and that typifies the things that you disbelieve in doesn't exist, right? That God that you're so angry at is not real. And so if truly you lost your faith, then you wouldn't feel this charge of resentment or still being tied to it. So like, that's the process. Like, that's my feelings. Like, the process is an internal one, is like figuring out how to heal internally, and then how your parents react to you and what you owe them as an explanation. I think Raghu's right. That's all. You don't owe anyone anything. You just owe yourself the
honor.
freedom. Yeah.
Just honor them, honor where you come from with them, and realize that there's really no difference. Wherever you've gone now into whatever is resonating with you is ultimately no different. And just be able to be free in that thought.
And one suggestion would be black eyeliner, black lipstick, black nail polish, and carve a pentagram into your chest. And then go home and don't mention it. Don't mention it, and that'll do the work for you. Just kind of hang out, and
that'll do it.
A top hat, and just like some weird contacts with like cat eyes.
Oh my God.
And they'll kind of get the message. Okay, she's not going to church anymore.
Joy, do you feel like you have a little bit of grasp? You feel a little less lost?
Mm-hmm. The honor sort of resonates. Honoring myself and others and being authentic.
I mean, how can someone hate you if you're thinking of that? And I just feel
and
like
that's their problem. You can't take on other people's thoughts.
It's part of the Christianity I was raised in. It's part of that problem. But
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I agree. Yes.
And congrats for getting out of Christianity.
Hey, wait, no. Christianity works for the people that it works for, just as Buddhism works for the people it works for. As Raghu said, it's all one thing, and it's not your thing anymore, but really it is, because whatever's left is still just like the truth. So,
Yeah.
And if I say I share values with aspects of Christianity, maybe that's just enough for them to say, I don't know what that means, but I'm not going to ask either.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Find out what happens.
Okay, well, good luck, Joy. We have one more call, so we have to let you
so
go.
much.
But
It was a pleasure. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye.
In Jesus' name we pray. That was great.
I mean, also, it's interesting where you're from, because it's all, as Ram Dass would say, grist for the mill. You know, like I'm writing a book right now, and I'm writing about being in Catholic school, and just like I was thinking, I think I experienced my first eye roll, like just hearing the priests like what's it called, intoning, and you know, we would all have to do it, and I just hated it so much. And it's like, but it all kind of like brings you towards where you're going, you know?
Well, I was going to say to her, I think it was Jesus that said, was it Jesus the wear the world as a loose garment guy? Is that him? Was that Jesus?
Don't know that one.
Loose garment, maybe not. Anyway, that, like, my personal relationship with my religion that I was raised in is loose garment. Like, all of the negative parts of it, they mean nothing to me. And the positive parts I resonate with. And my experience in when I had my sort of crisis of faith, which was around 12-step stuff, so it's not quite as dogmatic, but it's still got a dogma, was much more because I had taken on all of the 12-step information. I was a fundamentalist. And when you're a fundamentalist, the separation, when you stop believing, it's a much more painful experience than my relationship with Judaism, which was like, I never really believed it all the way anyway, so it never had the power to destroy my reality when I stopped believing. You know, that's what happens when you're a fundamentalist and the fundaments are pulled from underneath you. Then you're like, what is real? What is reality?
Yeah, that's really tough. The worst thing that happened, actually, for my from Judaism and my connection to it, was the ushers that took you to your seat on the high holidays, which you had to pay a fortune for, by the way.
I remember.
Had awful bad breath, and I can smell it still today.
It's because they were fasting.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, you just had a major realization. Maybe you're coming back into the fold.
Raghu, do you have time for one more call?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to call Brittany in Chicago. Hi, Brittany.
Hey, Brittany.
Brittany.
Hi.
Hi, how's it going?
It's Natasha, Moshe, and our esteemed colleague, Raghu Markus.
Hi, how are you?
We're great.
How can we help you?
Well, I had just a question. I have 2 young kids, and I was just wondering if there's any like good way to talk about life after death with young kids, especially if you're not super religious. And just when someone close to them passes away.
How old are they?
I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old son.
Oh, very.
I would say.
And so they're young.
I would say if it has to do with somebody passing away, then it'd be good to tell them that they're still around and watching them and haunting them. And and that if they do anything wrong, that they'll attack them. I think.
Not.
Yeah, they're great grandma. So
I'll
let Raghu take this one. I have no opinion on this.
Yeah, well, they are really young. So, did you have someone pass?
Yeah, my grandma did in March, and for me, obviously, it wasn't the first person close to me who passed away, but for my kids, it was. And I'm technically Catholic, but we don't go to church. We're not very religious. And so I just went with like, yeah, it's heaven, but I didn't know if there's like a better way to try to explain it that maybe isn't so religious, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I would say, you know how much you love grandma? And they would obviously go, yeah, we love grandma. Well, that love never disappears. It doesn't go anywhere. Whenever you think of grandma, you think of that love, and it is reciprocated. I mean, you can't say that word to a kid, but that that love connects us to those who have left us. That love connects us, and it's everlasting. It's not something that goes away. And in our own lives, I mean, my parents died in the last 5-6 years, and I still, when my mother comes into my mind or something, and I feel this warmth in my center of my chest, just about her, and I am relating with her and relating with that. I mean, I won't even go into the reality that I understand from being so involved in Eastern spirituality, which is there is karma and there is reincarnation. And I have met people who remembered and all of that, right? Their last lives. So I know it's real. And I don't even think you need to go there, because the truth is that love connects us completely. It connects us with those who've departed, and it connects us with everyone that we meet. We are just not tuned in because we have so many defense mechanisms going on. And it's very difficult, which is why I was just talking to Moshe and Natasha about what are the things to do is, well, in terms of getting onto a path where you're realizing that love is the connector to everything. And we talked about mindfulness practices and so on. But back to the kids, it's all about love.
And then, Raghu, what happens when the kid's like, but where is she?
Then a 4-year-old is a little bit young.
Yeah, like he didn't get it really to begin with. It's more like my daughter,
Yeah, the 7-year-old.
Yeah, like she got it.
Yeah, that there is birth is a reality and death is a reality that is part of life, and it has to be that kind of a conversation. But I keep going back to love that is the connector between us all, and ultimately, honestly, it is that which drives everything that is happening in this universe. And then, of course, we get into some tough stuff around how come there's so much suffering and so on and so forth. And that's way too far out to get into. But back to, yes, that is part of life. Birth and death are part of life. They're not separate. Now, we're brought up to think, whoa, death is we're all afraid of it. And that's how we're brought up around it. And to change that is to change your perspective.
So there you go, Brittany. Your choices are: love is the driving force of the universe. It's eternal and real. And the love connection you feel between someone that's passed on and is in your chest is real and eternal and represents a connection. Or she's still here, she's watching you, and you use that to kind of manipulate their behavior and get what you want out of your kids. It's your choice, really. What do you want? What direction do you want to go?
Okay, maybe I'll use them both somehow.
Okay.
I like it.
Okay, good luck, honey.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks, Brittany.
bye.
Bye.
Raghu, you're so great. Thank you so much for helping. You have such, wisdom, and it's so nice that you exist, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't even call it. It's just, to me, it's all practical. That's why I said in the very beginning, I just couldn't stand myself anymore. And that drove me, once I understood there was something out there that was not what I thought it was. And then I had this massive opposition inside myself. I mean, like the polarity we're talking about, the polarity politically, the polarity socially, culturally, and all of that, and how that divide seems to just widen and widen and widen. That same shit is going on in each one of us. In each one of us, there's a big polarity. There's that mind that is like running the show and controlling and manipulating and what we do, and making deals,
forgetting to breathe,
Yeah. So again, I didn't want to be involved with the continuation of that, and that's why I've been doing what I've been doing for these decades. I suggest that what's happened is very practical. I don't react the way that I used to, either to outside phenomena, people, events, whatever. And I'm not believing, the thoughts come, I'm laughing a lot more at whatever bullshit is arising. This is stuff I do with Duncan, right? Duncan Trussell.
We're not allowed to mention his name on this podcast.
Oh,
I'm just, I'm just kidding, Raghu. I'm just kidding.
My God, I'll never do it again.
No, I brought Raghu to Duncan in a way. So
that's true.
I had a spiritual teacher once who told me he wanted to go from when reacting, saying, "Isn't that awful?" to "Isn't that interesting?"
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. What Aldous Huxley, Ram Dass told me this story. So Aldous Huxley, when he was dying, he was like taking acid all the time. Okay. And Ram Dass was walking with him in London, and he got to the point where he couldn't really talk. He could only do one thing. Everything he looked at was like the wonder of a baby, seeing everything. And he could only say one word: extraordinary, extraordinary.
I love that. That's great.
Well, I think that's like, to me, what I was talking to you about in the beginning. Raghu, you weren't here for it, but it was like, as a person for whom my hackles can come up very quickly around this kind of stuff, Ram Dass's school and what you're in the same school, and the practicality is so accessible for a person with my mind that it's there's nothing there to object to, because it's so practical, and it really is.
He said his bullshit meter doesn't go off with Ram Dass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, you keep speaking like you have a corner on all this shit. My mind, I can't meditate. Like this is all yours. Look at your story. You're telling yourself this story, and I own this, and it's mine.
Right. So maybe it's time to read 75 Minutes to Enlightenment. And
I'm going to send it to you. There's no reading. I'm going to send it to you.
And we're going to tell everyone to check out your podcast, Mind Rolling Podcast. And I hope to be a guest soon, or see you in another way.
Well, we're opening up, right? It's opening up, and I'm all vaxxed up, and I'm coming to LA, so I'll get over with you.
Well, we don't like discussing our private medical decisions with other people, but
Raghu, thank you for
no, we're
joining us.
vaxxed. We're vaxxed. We got double Johnson & Johnson just to make sure.
Yeah, we got 2 of them. I flew to Russia and got Sputnik just to round it out. Thank you.
So
honestly,
great.
It was enlightening.
Great to hang with you. Moshe, we have not hung out. That's the beauty of podcasts, to be able to do this. So
Indeed.
Kind of great to meet you.
Well, hopefully we'll see you in the flesh.
We will. I am coming in, and I'll give you a buzz, and yes, we'll get you on Mind Rolling again. Absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
All sounds good.
All
Thank
the
you,
best,
Raghu.
you
It was
guys.
great to hang with you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Extraordinary.
This was extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Okay, Moshe. Well, I feel like
that was good.
maybe I can get you to do some breaths in the morning with me.
I'm in. I'm down.
Well, because I don't really do them either, but if we did them together, that would be helpful.
That's what I was trying to say to Joy, but I think I lost my train of thought. That whole idea about, for people that are struggling with their old faith, I want to say this before we go. That whole idea of people that are struggling with their old faith, and they're going, about their resentment toward the God that they no longer believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And him saying that, Rabbi Michael Lerner saying that the God that you reject and that you're angry at does not exist. So allowing that God that you don't believe in to continue to rule your life, and to continue to rule your mind, and to continue to have sovereignty over your thoughts, makes that God real. And
how do you stop believing that they're powerful?
Well, I think I'm just saying, okay,
because you have that. I have that situation with people too.
Well, you're saying to yourself, I don't believe in this God anymore, but you're still like angry at the God that you don't believe in. And so that's what I was saying. It's like a breakup. It's like a process of figuring out how to, like, by the time you actually stop believing in that, it won't make you angry anymore. It won't make you upset anymore because you'll say, well, why would something that isn't real hold sway over my mind? And then you can figure out what it is that you do believe in. That's what I was trying to say to Joy. So if Joy, if you're listening, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's a process of healing. It's like rejecting. And then what Raghu was saying, I thought was interesting, is once you do the actual healing, then you get to find out what still remains of belief. Like my thing with 12-step stuff, I mean, it's easier to, it's less traumatic than a real religion. 12-step stuff, it's less dogmatic and less mind controlly. But the thing is, after I got past some of the stuff that I was having a really hard time with, then I was like, oh, here are all the parts of that system that I still incorporate in my life, I still love, and I still use in my daily life. Like once I got rid of my resentment, I was able to go, here are the parts that I still love and that still remain with me. I guess is my point.
Cool. All right. Well,
it has been cool.
Listen, I gotta go.
You gotta go.
Yeah, I've got to go.
Well, you know what? This has been extraordinary, and yeah,
it's been extraordinary for me too.
And I don't love the accent, and the most extraordinary part of it all,
yes,
is my love for you.
Oh, extraordinary.
I love you.
I love you. I love you too.
Goodbye, Duchess.
Ta-ta.